All right, Cris, Canty, how would the Cowboys do this? If they're going to beat Los Angeles, how do they pull off the upset?
Well, I think we saw their formula for success, especially on the offensive side of the ball last week against the Seattle Seahawks. Let's give Ezekiel Elliott the ball. He needs 30-plus touches. You saw him have 120 yards from scrimmage by halftime against the Seattle Seahawks. So I think it's in large part the same formula. But if you look at the other team, I think their formula for success is similar. I mean, they have to give the ball to Todd Gurley. Now, he's had an opportunity to get some rest. They didn't play him a lot in December because he was nicked up a little bit. So with that coupled in the bye week, I think he's had time to freshen up, and he'll be ready to go. But that Dallas Cowboys defense just shut down the #1 rushing attack in the National Football League in the Seattle Seahawks in the wild card round. So I look at this and say both quarterbacks are dependent on the run game. It's about which defense can slow down the opposing team's run game. And to me, I trust the Dallas Cowboys defense to be able to do that more so than the Los Angeles Rams defense.
I fully agree with you that, to me, the key to this game is not the Cowboys' offense, it's their defense. As odd as it sounds, I trust the Cowboys offense at this point in the year to be who they know they have to be. A heavy dose of Zeke. Dak, we've seen more of late, his willingness to use his legs. I don't think they're going to throw for 300 yards. I don't think their plan is to throw for 300 yards.
They haven't done it.
That hasn't been their MO. To me, the real question is, can this Cowboys front duplicate what it did against Seattle? Seattle does not have a player like Todd Gurley, but they had the #1 run attack in the NFL this year. They ran the ball consistently, and it wasn't just that they ran a lot, it was successful. 170 yards per game over the last 14 weeks of the season, 5 yards per carry over the last 14 weeks of the season, and the Cowboys shut it down. Can they do that to Todd Gurley? And when Todd Gurley's a receiver, can those fast, athletic, young linebackers cover him? Can you be out in space against Todd Gurley and not have to use a corner, which could present bad matchups if they audible into a run? Use Leighton Vander Esch. Let Jalen Smith be out on an island with Todd Gurley and not get dominated in that matchup. That's what I'm watching for in this football game.
See, I'm surprised if I asked you this a couple weeks ago, you'd be like, why are you asking? But now that you see these two teams, who has the better defense?
Who has the better defense? You got to go with the Dallas Cowboys. They've been more consistent. And the reason why the Rams, sometimes their defensive front, they act as if, man, they got a 21-point lead, and it's actually, they might be down. They disregard the run. I mean, for the type of talent that they have, you don't have their linebacking core and their defensive front matched up doing the same thing. Gap responsibilities, they've been undisciplined. And their ability to be able to get to the quarterback, yeah, it's elite. But in a game like this, going against the opposition of the Dallas Cowboys, you can't give up the type of yards they've given up or been as inconsistent in the running game, because the Dallas Cowboys will hand it to Zeke. So when you look at it, I believe they have more talent on the Dallas defense, and their secondary on Dallas has been far more consistent than the secondary of the Rams.
No, you're absolutely right, CC. But the one thing I will say about that Dallas Cowboys defense, I think at home, it's a different type of unit, because we saw them earlier in the season shut down the New Orleans Saints running game with Mark Ingram and Alvin Kamara. We saw them at home last week against the Seattle Seahawks. But I saw them in the Indianapolis Colts up there in Indy, and Marlon Mack rushed for 170 yards.
But from what I'm hearing with the ticket situation in Los Angeles, it seems like there's going to be at least 50% Cowboy fans, so they won't be playing in Jerry World. Yeah. But it is going to be a favorable Cowboy crowd there in Los Angeles and Southern California.
You're right, but they still got to travel, and they ain't sleeping in their own bed. So that is a little bit of a different thing. And so I'm saying if that Cowboys defense doesn't stop the run, if they don't play on the other side of the line of scrimmage against that Los Angeles Rams offensive line, if they don't make Todd Gurley stop and start in the backfield, it could be a long day for them, because that opens up other opportunities in play-action passing. And no team is as dependent on their run game to set up the passing game than the Los Angeles Rams. That's why no quarterback spends more time under center than Jared Goff. So I think that's critical for the Cowboys defense. If they want to slow down the second highest scoring offense in the National Football League, they are going to have to be able to stop the run, and that starts with getting penetration into the backfield.
And they're going to have to do it out of something that's not their strong suit. Their nickel defense is not weak, but it's not as strong as their regular 4-3 front with those three linebackers playing. Now, they also have Sean Lee. They brought him back into the rotation. The Rams are going to make them play nickel, because the Rams play 3 receivers, 1 tight end, 1 running back more than any other NFL team.
Basically all time.
So from a strategy standpoint, Dallas is going to have to do it. but they're going to have to do it from a little undersized unit compared to the regular defensive unit.
And, Jenna, to your original question to Chris, that going into the season, I would have said, even though I thought Cowboys were going to have a good defense, going into the year, I would have said, well, the Rams, of course, they're going to have better defense than Dallas. They might have the best defense in the league going into the year. Now,
on paper.
On paper. Now, when the Bears added Khalil Mack, I maybe would have said, but the Rams, I looked at it, I said, I've seen Wade Phillips with this recipe. 2 shutdown corners.
Yes.
A dominant generational player on the D-line. And I'm not talking about Ndamukong Suh. I'm talking about Aaron Donald. But the Rams we've now seen 16 games from them. That's not who they are. Here's who they are defensively. They are elite at 2 things: forcing turnovers and employing Aaron Donald. That's it. Those are the 2 things the Rams are great at. They're not great against the pass. They're bad against the run. They don't get a ton of sacks, which is remarkable since one guy got 20 of them. They simply haven't been a very good defense. So Zeke has to play great, because this is, as odd as it is, it's a favorable matchup for him. This is a more favorable matchup for Zeke than the one against Seattle. He has to be.
And more favorable than if they had to go play the Saints.
Oh, no.
The Saints are second against the run. So this is a good matchup for the Cowboys and how they want to play their offense.
All right, you have 2 defenses, you have 2 good running backs, you have 2 quarterbacks who kind of play the same. Is there any part of this game, in your opinion, Cris, Canty, that's going to come down to play calling? A young, aggressive coach who you know is going to call big, aggressive plays, trick plays, all of it. And Jason Garrett, who's been known to be a little bit more conservative in the way he's called games this season. How much of this will come down to coaching and play calling?
Well, I always say it comes down to the guys on the field and not the guys drawing up the X's and O's. It's all about the Jesses and Joes. So I think that it comes down to the players that can have an impact on this game, especially late in the game. And we saw what Dak Prescott was capable of doing at the end of that Giants game in Week 17, the regular season finale. And then we saw what he did last week in the 4th quarter against the Seattle Seahawks, being able to utilize his legs, especially in the red zone, to put his team in position to be able to score points. So I think that it comes down to key players making big plays in critical situations. And in situational football the last couple of weeks, I like what I've seen from the Dallas Cowboys, and I think they're carrying more momentum into this game than the Los Angeles Rams.
I also think nerves are going to be a big part of this football game. I think that plays in the Cowboys' favor. And here's why. If you were to tell me, guys, I'm not going to tell you who won, but this game was a blowout, then I would bet a lot of money the Rams won. I don't think the Cowboys have the capability of going to Los Angeles and blowing out the Rams. And the Rams could. They've shown the firepower. But if this is a close game, all of a sudden, it's not just the momentum Dallas carries with it. It's that Dallas has already had a wildly successful season. They were 3-5. They had traded for Amari Cooper. They'd gotten blown out on national television. It looked like they had traded away a top 10 pick. They were going to fire their coach. There was questions about Dak. Since then, they have won 8 of 9 games. They just beat Russell Wilson in the playoffs. Jason Garrett's got another playoff win. Dak Prescott's got his first playoff win. And now they're the team with no expectations going into this game. The Rams have gotten a lot of headlines the last 2 years, where people are trying to hire coaches that remind you of Sean McVay.
Who knows Sean McVay? We've had lunch with Sean McVay.
Exactly right. Okay, and last year, nobody really killed them for winning 11 games and losing a home playoff game. They lost to the Falcons, Super Bowl experience. They had bad special teams.
One and done was okay.
All that. It happens. You go 13-3 now. You have home game. You get a favorable matchup that I think a lot of people are like, hey, it would have been tougher going up against the Bears, which is the matchup they should have gotten, or they would have gotten. You got lucky that field goal's missed. You lose that game, or if you're in position, if it's late and it's close, I want to see how Goff plays in that spot. I want to see Sean McVay, how he calls the game in that spot, because we can flip on you real quick in this league and in the media. And everyone's favorite hot team, the Rams, they go one and done back-to-back years in the postseason, 24 regular season wins and 0 postseason wins. People start questioning what they're doing there.
Thanks for watching. Subscribe here to get the latest from the show. Also, be sure to check out more of the best clips from First Things First, or go watch a few segments from our other shows on FS1.